أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
पनाह मांगता हूँ मैं अल्लाह की शैतान मरदूद से।
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
शुरू अल्लाह का नाम लेकर जो बड़ा मेहरबान निहायत रहम वाला है।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum brothers and sisters, and welcome to my show Future Stars. I am your host Alvia Zaidi. Now today's topic will be about school subjects, and for school subjects we'll be talking about maths and science. And to talk with me today about our topic we have Sister Amal and Sister Alicia. And before we go into our topics, last week a caller phoned in and asked three questions, and I could only answer one. So today I'm just going to answer the other two. Now, the first question was, how many miles did Imam Hussein alayhi salam travel from Medina to Mecca and then Mecca to Karbala? And the answer is, from Medina to Mecca it was 250 miles, and from Mecca to Karbala was 1,100 miles. And the other question was, how many litres can a camel drink at a time, and how many litres can a horse drink at a time? So a camel can drink 113.4 litres at a time, and a horse can drink 90 litres, 0.9 litres at a time. So I hope those answered your questions for the questions from last week. Now, for our topic about maths and science, first of all, we're going to start with a story by Sister Alicia, and it's a maths story about whole numbers.
Imam Ali Abi Talib alayhi salam's mathematical brilliance, whole numbers and not a fraction. One day a Jewish person came to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, thinking that since Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib thinks he's too smart, I will ask him such a tough question that he won't be able to answer it, and I will have the chance to embarrass him in front of all the Arabs. Jewish person asked, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, tell me a number that if we divide it by any number from 1 to 10, the answer will always come in the form of a whole number and not as a fraction. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam looked back at him and said, take the number of days in a year and multiply it with the number of days in a week, and you will have your answer. The Jewish person got astonished by what he heard. He still didn't believe Imam Ali alayhi salam. He calculated the answer Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam gave him. To his amazement, he came across the following results. The number of days in a year is 360 in Arab. The number of days in a week is 7. The product of the two numbers is 2,520. Now, 2,520 divided by 1 is 2,520. 2,520 divided by 2 is 1,260. 2,520 divided by 3 is 840. 2,520 divided by 4 is 630. 2,520 divided by 5 is 504. 2,520 divided by 6 is 420. Divided by 7 is 360. Divided by 8 is 315. Divided by 9 is 280, and divided by 10 is 252, which is the answer.
MashaAllah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for sharing that story with us. So it was just a story explaining about the mathematical brilliance of Imam Ali alayhi salam and how he was able to calculate such complex math sums in his head and very fast. So now we're going to move on to a story by Sister Amal, and it's another story about Imam Ali and his mathematical brilliance, and this one's about dividing camels.
A person was about to die, and before dying he wrote his will, which were as follows. I have 17 camels, and I have 3 sons. Divide my camels in such a way that the eldest son gets half of them, the second one gets 1/3, and in total the youngest one gets 1/9 of the total number of camels. After his death, When the relatives read this, they got extremely confused and said to each other that how can we divide 17 camels like this? So for a long time and a hard thought, they decided that there was only one man in Arabia that could help them, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So they all came to the door of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and put forward the problem. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam said, okay, I'll divide the camels as per of the man's will. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam said, I will lend one of my camels to the total, which makes it 18, which is 17 plus 1, which equals 18. Now let's divide as per his will. The eldest son gets half of 18, which is 9. The second one gets 1/3 of 18, which is 6. The youngest one gets 1/9 of 18, which is 2. Now the total number of camels is 17. So 9 plus 6 plus 2 equals 17. Then Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib said, okay, now I'll take one of my camels back.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And thank you very much for sharing that story with us. So it's just, again, another story explaining about Imam Ali alayhi salam and how he could figure out math sums and also how he could solve mathematical problems. So also, I'd like to remind my viewers that if anybody would like to phone in, the number's at the bottom of your screen and you can phone in to ask a question, or maybe you'd like to recite something, or maybe you'd like to tell us something about today's topic. So now that we've just had two stories, I'm going to move on to some questions. And first of all, I'd like to ask Sister Alicia, what does Islam teach us about knowledge?
Islam teaches us that knowledge is very important and is needed in our everyday life. Islam gives us knowledge in ways like the Quran, the Prophets, the Imam and Ahlul Bayt. Allah has shown to Muslims that knowledge is high in His eyes and we should strive for it.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And Sister Amal, what is the link between Islam and maths?
The way in Islam and maths are linked is that there's something taught by imams regularly, and also the numbers that started in Arabia were created by Muslims. That provides a big link with maths and Islam.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And Sister Alicia, what is the importance of maths in Islam?
Math is really important in Islam because it's a form of knowledge and it's highly commanded by Allah.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And also, because we've just had some stories about this, and I'd like to ask Sister Amal, who is the main figure of maths in Islam?
For Islam, the main figure is Imam Ali alayhi salam.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And in a question that Sister Amal answered earlier, she mentioned about how numbers had started in Arabia and they were created by Muslims. So I have some history and then the evolution of symbols in some information about that here. So the digits 1 to 9 in the Hindu-Arabic numeral system evolved from the Brahmi numerals. These Brahmi numerals were used all over Asia. Adoption in Europe. In Central Europe, the King of Hungary, Ladislaus the Pothumus, started the use of Arabic numerals, which appear for the first time in a royal document of 1456. By the mid-16th century, they were in common use of most of Europe. Roman numerals remained in use mostly for the notation of AD years, and for numbers on clock faces. Sometimes Roman numerals are still used for record lists as an alternative for alphabetical record. For following volumes, to differentiate monarchs or family members with the same first names, and, in lowercase, to number pages in a preface of material books. The adoption in Russia. Cyrillic numerals were a numbering system derived from the Cyrillic alphabet used by the South and East Slavic peoples. The system was used in Russia as late as the early 18th century, when Peter the Great replaced it with Arabic numerals. Adoption in China. Arabic numerals were introduced to China during the Yuan dynasty, 1271 to 1368, by the Muslim Hu people. And the evolution of symbols. The numeral system known as algorithm is positional decimal system. Various symbol sets are used to represent numbers in the Hindu-Arabic numeral system. all of which have evolved from the Brahmi numerals. The symbols used to represent this system have split into various alternatives since the Middle Ages. The widespread Western Arabic numerals used with the Latin script descended from the West Arabic numerals developed in Al-Andalus and the Maghrib. These are two typographic styles from translation of European numerals known as lining figures or text figures. The Arabic Indic or Eastern Arabic numerals used with an Arabic script developed mainly in what is now Iraq. An alternative of the Eastern Arabic numerals used in the Persian and Urdu languages is shown in East Arabic Indic. There is a large variation in the usage of glyphs for the Eastern Arabic Indic digits, especially for the digits 4, 5, 6 and 7. The Devanagari numerals used with the Devanagari and related variants are grouped as Indian numerals. So, those were just a bit about the history of numerals, so numbers, which have been used during Arabia and during the Muslim times and also created by the Muslim people. So now we're going to move to a story by Sister Amal, and it's another story about Imam Ali alayhi salam, and also showing that he had mathematical brilliance.
Zuhr bin Habash relates this story to two travellers that sat together on their way to the destination to have a meal. One had 5 loaves of bread, the other had 3. A third traveller was passing by, and at that request the two joined the meal. The travellers cut out each of the loaves of bread in 3 equal parts. Each of the travellers ate 8 broken pieces of the loaf. At the time of learning, the third traveller took out an 8 dirhams and gave to the 2 first men and offered him the meal, and went away. On receiving the money, the 2 travellers started quarrelling, and as to who should have not owned the money. The 5-loaf man demanded 5 dirhams. The 3-loaf man insisted on dividing the money into 2 equal parts. The dispute was brought to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, the Khalif of the time in Arabia, to be decided. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam requested the 3-loaf man to accept 3 dirhams, because 5-loaf man had been more than fair to you. The 3-loaf man refused and said he would take only 4 dirhams. At this, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib replied, "You can have only 1 dirham. You had 8 loaves between yourselves. Each loaf was broken in 3 parts. Therefore you had 24 equal parts. Your 3 loaves made 9 parts, out of which you have eaten 8 portions, leaving just 1 of the third traveller. Your friend had 5 loaves, which divided into 3 and made 15 pieces. He ate 8 pieces and gave 7 pieces to the guest. As such, the guest shared 1 part from your loaves and 7 from those of your friend. So you should get 1 dirham, and your friend should receive 7 dirhams."
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And that's just a story explaining, another story explaining about Imam Ali and the way he solved problems. So now, before we continue, we seem to have a caller on the line. So, hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, future stars. Uncle Ali speaking from London. Thank you very much. You give me answer here. So, today I make a question. Maybe you can give it to me now, or maybe the listener who's listening the program, you're watching your program and listening, and maybe they give the answer. Today's my question is, when we enter the guardhouse, we rotate anti-clockwise, but which way are we orbiting the sun, clockwise or anti-clockwise?
Okay.
Yeah, this is my question today.
Okay.
So if you know, you let me know, or if people are watching your program, if they know, and please come forward to the call, make a call, and give you call and give me the answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for calling in. So, thank you for calling in, and also if anybody else like to phone in, the number's at the bottom of your screen, and you can phone in to ask a question, or maybe you'd like to recite something, or maybe you'd like to answer the question that we just had. So, just before I ask the question that we had, there's another caller on the line. So, hello, assalamu alaikum.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Ya Ali Madat, I'm Hira Batul and I'm calling from Leicester, and I want to recite Surat An-Nas. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah.
MashaAllah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for phoning in. And MashaAllah, that was very well recited, and thank you for calling in. So also, if anybody else would like to phone in, the number's at the bottom of your screen, and you can phone in to recite something like our last caller, or ask a question, or even answer the question that we had earlier. So earlier we had the question saying we are orbiting the sun, so the Earth is orbiting the sun, and which way are we facing, and also which way are we orbiting the sun, anti-clockwise or clockwise? Now, I'm not quite sure about the answer, but do any of my guests know? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for asking that question, and I will definitely answer that question at the start of next week's show. So now, Sister Amal just gave us a story about Imam Ali alayhi salam solving another mathematical problem, and now I have a story for us here, and it's again about people going to Imam Ali for his mathematical brilliance and asking about a problem that they had. So, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam's mathematical brilliance, dividing inheritance. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was endowed with a quick, sharp, incisive and mathematical mind. Here are a few interesting stories which Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam's mathematical brilliance revealed itself. The question was, what is a wife's share? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was once interrupted while he was delivering a sermon from the pulpit by someone who asked him how to distribute the inheritance of someone who had died leaving a wife, his parents and 2 daughters. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam instantly answered, the wife's share becomes 1/9. How? This answer is in fact the result of a long analysis with a number of steps. Ordinarily, we have to decide on the original share of each of these heirs in the following way. In the Noble Quran, Surah 4, Ayah 12, it says, the wife takes 1/8 in view of a presence of an inheriting child. Again, in the Noble Quran, Ayah 11 of Surah 4, the deceased father and mother takes 1/6 each. The 2 daughters take 2/3 of inheritance in the same ayah. So the total would be 1/8 add 1/6 add 1/6 add 2/3. This equals 3/24 add 4/24 add 4/24 add 16/24, which equals 27/24. This means the share becomes less than 1/8 in view of the increase of the total of shares, which are so fixed and prescribed. So the 1/8, the original share due to the wife, out of a 24 total shares, have become 3 shares out of a total of 27, which is 1/9. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam's mind went through this complex mathematical process in less than a second. So that's another story that we have about Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's mathematical brilliance. And now we're going to move on to another story by Sister Alicia, and this story is again about sharing camels and a problem which Imam Ali alayhi salam was faced with.
A camel shared by 3. 3 men shared a camel equally. One of them tied his 4 legs and went away for some work. In the meantime, the other 2 returned to their place of stay and united one of the 4 leg, and they also went away together. The camel, in their absence, walked with one untied leg off the place where the first man had tied him, and fell in a well and wounded himself by the floor. The two men returned again, saw the camel fallen in the well, got him out somehow or other, and butchered him and sold the meat for collecting some money in view of a little compensation for the loss. When the first partner returned, he saw the skin of the camel. On inquiry, the 2 other partners told him what had happened. He took an objection to it and rather complained against the untying the camel, which resulted in the heavy loss to him. He then took the case to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, who ordered for payment of 1/3 of the piece of the camel to him. When the cash with the cash which was collected by selling the meat of the camel was counted, it was 1/3 of the price of the camel. This amount was paid in full to the first partner of the camel, and the other two went away empty-handed. While they were about to leave, Imam Ali alayhi salam told them that as they had not taken proper care for the safety of the camel and the safeguard of their shears, whereas their first partner had by tying his two legs, hence it is their loss.
Mashallah, thank you very much, and thank you for sharing that story with us. Just another mathematical problem that Imam Ali alayhi salam solved. So now, before we move on, I'd just like to remind my viewers that if anybody would like to phone in, the number's at the bottom of your screen, and you can phone in to ask a question, or maybe you'd like to recite something, or maybe you'd like to tell us something about today's topic. So the number's at the bottom of your screen. So now we've just had a little bit about maths in Islam, and some about the history of symbols and the evolution of symbols, and also some stories about the mathematical brilliance of Imam Ali alayhi salam. We're going to move on to a second subject, which is science in Islam, and it's still part of our today's topic, but this time we'll be talking about science. So I have some brief information about the history of science, and also about the ways that Islam has contributed to science. Islamic science, or Arabic science, is the science developed and practiced in the Islamic world during the golden age of Islam. During this time, Indian, Assyriac, Iranian, and especially Greek knowledge was all translated into Arabic. These translations became a source for scientific improvements by scientists from the Islamic civilization during the Middle Ages. In the 7th to 13th centuries, the Islamic world was in the middle of its golden age, paving the way for growth of modern sciences. Rather than stifling science, the religion of Islam encouraged its study. Scientific inquiry was widespread, and some of the greatest scholars and scientists of the world made wondrous discoveries and inventions. Muslims led the world in the study of medicine, astronomy, mathematics, geography, chemistry, botany, and physics. They spread their studies to the West, where their work was built upon and further scattered. So that's just some information about science in Islam. And before we move on to some stories about contributions to science from Islam, I'd like to ask some questions. So first of all, I'd like to ask Sister Alicia, what is the link between science and Islam?
The link between science and Islam is that Imam Ali used to teach it regularly. He was really fascinated by it, and he used to ponder about scientific matters.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And Sister Amal, what is the importance of science in Islam?
Science in Islam is just as important as maths in Islam, and science in Islam is like knowledge, and knowledge for Islam in science is really important.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And I've just mentioned this earlier in the information that I read out, and so I'd just like to ask Sister Alicia, what types of science have Islam contributed to?
Islam has contributed to different types of science such as physics, medicine, cosmology, chemistry, and astrology.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And now we're just going to move on to a story by Sister Amal, and it's about Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam and hydrogen.
According to the Western world, the greatest miracle of the Imam was the revelation of the presence of oxygen in the air. The Western world admits now that the Imam discovered this 12.5 years ago. Imam Bakr had said about the presence of hydrogen in water, and water can be turned to fire, as hydrogen was a highly inflammable gas. The discovery of these two gases depended upon the separation from air and water. Separation of hydrogen from water is the most difficult. That separation of oxygen from air, pure oxygen is available in the air, but pure hydrogen is not available anywhere. Hence, hydrogen could not be obtained till sufficient power was developed. Water was hydrolyzed. The water, as to how both our Imams could reveal the presence of oxygen, was with the colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas does not exist. and it's not inhalable. This could not have identified this gas and find out the properties without separating it from water through the process of hydrolysis, which is impossible without a strong current deflection. The first person who was able to separate hydrogen from water in the modern times was the English scientist Henry Cavendish, who dictated it in the 1810. After many years of research, he was able to hydrolyze water with the obtained of hydrogen gas. He was also able to confirm the hydrogen gas was highly inflammable as a result of the freakish accident that he had during while his experiments, which resulted his house catching fire, and eventually the French chemist who gave the name of hydrogen to this gas. The Imam knew such secrets, but only the extent that would be useful in this world. Hence, the secret of the hydrogen could be separated from the enter without use of electricity was never made, and on the common man, it has been proved to that discovery by man has not done by any good in mankind, or the contrary, is led to productions of hydrogen bomb, which is threatening to annihilate the human race. It was better that this instrument of death, destruction and devastation was not invented and manufactured, also the mankind would be saved from the impending catastrophe.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And now we're just going to ask a few more questions. And first of all, I'd like to ask Sister Amal, who is the main figure of science in Islam?
The main figure in science of Islam is Imam Jafar Sadiq or sixth Imam.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And Sister Alicia, what is so fascinating about Islam and science and Islam and maths?
What I find fascinating is that Islam and math and science and math are taught alongside Islam. I like when the Imam teaches it and preaches the message about it. It's interesting because it's commonly taught about in nowadays and the olden days.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And Sister Amal, what is the connection of Islam and maths and Islam and science?
The connection between Islam and maths and Islam and science is that Islam had contributed to these subjects greatly, and Islam had made many theories about it, and they were mostly correct.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. And now we're just going to move on to a story by Sister Alicia, and it's about Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam and another theory from science about the rotation of Earth.
At the age of 11, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam disapproved the theory that the sun, moon and the planets rotated around the Earth. He said that the sun, during its courses round the Earth, passes through the 12 constellations in 1 year and remains in each constellation for 30 days. So why does it then appear from sight during the night? It should remain visible in each constellation for 30 days. Theory said that the sun has two movements. One of its movements is that it crosses the sign of the zodiac and goes around the Earth in 1 year, and the other movement is that it goes around the Earth in 1 night and 1 day, as a result of which we see it rise in the east and set in the west. Aristotle was a great thinker and philosopher. His books, Organon and Physics, are the most precious literacy treasures of mankind, but his theory that the Earth is stationary and the sun and stars rotate around it delayed the progress of the science and astronomy and kept mankind in the darkness of ignorance for 1,800 years. The Imam remarked that those two movements were not compatible. When the sun had to pass through the sign of the zodiac in 1 year and slay in each constellation for 30 days, how could it change its course and go around the Earth in 24 hours? It's also announced that the Earth rotated around its own axis. The great scholar Poincare, who lived in the 20th century, made fun of this theory. When such a scholar could refuse to believe this, how could people in the 1st and 2nd century of the Hijrah believe in the theory of the Imam? The rotation of the Earth on its own scale could be proved by observation only. When astronauts landed on the surface of the moon and directed their telescope towards the Earth, they observed that it was rotating slowly on its axis. Some people might say that it is only by work that Imam Jafar Sadiq said the Earth rotates on its own axis. Sometimes it happens that guesswork proves to be correct, but the question appears as to why that one who had given that for such a long time. This proves that he knew the law of astrophysics, which enabled him to make that discovery. If he had not noticed those laws, it would have been impossible for him to discover the rotation of the Earth on its axis. This discovery could not have been accidental. One must know the cause to know its effect. Tragically, for reasons stated above, the real credit of discovery of the movement of the Earth round the Sun was given to Copernicus, who was an astronomer and mathematician in the 15th century. The theory of the Earth's rotation around its own axis went to Galileo, who discovered the telescope.
MashaAllah, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that story with us. So that's another story explaining about Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam and also his contribution to science, and also how he came up with theories and they were proved right, but he didn't get the credit for it. So that concludes our show for this week, and I'd like to say thank you very much to Sister Amal and thank you very much to Sister Alicia for coming along today and talking to me today about our subject and our topic. And I'd like to say thank you very much to our callers for phoning in and discussing their views with us. And I'd like to say thank you very much to our viewers for, I hope today's show was very informative and now you know a bit more about maths and a bit more about science in Islam. So thank you for watching, and today's topic was school subjects, maths and science. I'm your host Alvia Zaidi and this was Future Stars. Khudafis.